Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I am Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio, and we got a busy show today. We got a busy couple shows today. We got the Sweet 16 in college basketball. We got opening day tomorrow, but we got to start with the NFL. We got to start with the Giants, and they finally solved they finally solved their quarterback issue. They don't know if they solved it, but they've gotten a couple quarterbacks, and they signed Jameis Winston on Friday to a 2-year, $8 million deal, and then yesterday they signed Russell Wilson to a one year, $21 million deal, $10 million guaranteed. And the big question for the Giants is, does this rule out that they're going to draft Shedeur Sanders with the third pick? I think it does. I think it rules it out. If you're going to spend $25 million on the position this offseason, I think it rules out the fact that you would go draft a quarterback. And if Shedeur Sanders was drafted, he would be the number. He would be the. He would be the third string quarterback. So I don't think it would make at this point, honestly. And it's crazy to say it's the number 3 pick that it wouldn't make sense to take a quarterback at number 3. But I don't think it would make sense to draft Shedeur Sanders. So I think it rules that out. Now, does it rule out them drafting a quarterback later on? No, I think there's a very good chance they draft a quarterback in the second round. But right now, the Giants and for them right now for them moving forward as an organization for this regime, I think this was the best thing they could do. They weren't going to wait on Aaron Rodgers. It looked like the room was split on Shedeur Sanders if he was the guy or not. So it's tough. It's tough to say this because we have the number 3 overall pick, and usually it's just like you guys last year when you have the third pick, you want to take your quarterback of the future in the first round. But but looking at this quarterback draft class, I think that this move is pretty much right now the best the Giants can do.
Point, yeah, it's their best option. I was actually kind of excited to see Jameis Winston at first get the deal because he'd make your offense more exciting. I know probably a lot of turnovers, but he's not afraid to sling it around. So, but yeah, bringing Russell Wilson, who his production was pretty good last year in Pittsburgh. He's an older guy. It's not a bad move, and yeah, I think it's the Aaron Rodgers waiting around stuff. I think it's ridiculous on his part. He's not as good as he once was. So, without Aaron Rodgers wanting to be in the front page of the news. But yeah, I think it's a decent move for the Giants. Again, your schedule's really tough. You do have Malik Neighbors, which helps, but I don't know how many more wins this adds you. But again, they're probably still a 4 or 5 win team with Russell Wilson. But I imagine that's probably where you want to be at this point, right? Because I don't think you want to win 7-8 games and then have this regime stay another couple of years, So you kind of want to bottom out at this point, right?
Yeah, the fan base probably yes. Yeah, the fan base probably because they want to bottom out and get a quarterback and then get rid of this regime, which should have been gone the previous year. But it is what it is. But for this regime, That's why they're a desperate regime. They want to win games. I think that's why they've added these two veteran quarterbacks. That's why they've added Russell Wilson. That's why they've added Jameis Winston. This is a desperate regime. They have to be at least for John Mara to keep them. They got to be playing meaningful football late into the season. They're probably not going to be doing that with Shedeur Sanders. And if they wait on Aaron Rodgers, they could have lost out on Wilson and Winston and Wilson. So I think for this regime right now, and even for this team moving forward, because Shedeur Sanders could set this franchise back, 3 to 4 years if they draft him number 3 overall. For this organization going forward, I think this is the best move because now you're able to get a franchise guy. And usually, I'm usually take the quarterback. But when there's only one quarterback you like, and it's obvious there's only one quarterback worthy to be being pretty much a top 5 pick, and that guy is going to go to the Titans and Cam Ward. This is pretty much the best you can do. You get a guy like Travis Hunter or an Abdul Carter, a guy who's going to be a franchise player for your team for the next, hopefully for the next decade. And then, Russell Wilson, he is a stopgap until the Giants get their franchise guy. But as I said earlier, this is pretty much the best they can do.
Yeah, it is. And, he's a veteran, both those guys, Winston and Russell, both kind of veteran guys in that locker room, which will help out. But yeah, they're just a stopgap. And I know you like to think the next year's quarterback class would be good, but I think we thought this year's quarterback class would be pretty solid. It just hasn't turned out to be that way. Maybe it's the same thing next year. You just never know really until next fall and the college football season kind of starts. So yeah, who knows? But yeah, these guys should have probably been gone last year in Dable and Shane, but they're here one more year. They're desperate. They want to try to figure it out. They want to try to win, and this helps out. This is going to prove your quarterback play for the first time in a couple years. The offense should look semi decent now for the first time in a couple years.
Yeah, it should. I mean, with Wilson, he's not great, but he's an upgrade. You'll have league. Hopefully, this is a big hope. Hopefully, Andrew Thomas stays healthy. So, yeah, it should be the best the offense has looked since 2022 when they made the playoffs. This is definitely the best the offense should look. And even defensively, I think they'll be okay. I mean, this is probably going to, but with the schedule, this is probably going to be a 5-6 win team because Russell Wilson, he's not the player he once was. He's okay, but he's not the player he once was. And the defense, even though it'll be improved, it'll still probably be an average to above average defense. This will be an improvement, but looking at the schedule the Giants play and looking at the fact that Dayball's still there and he's done everything he could to lose his job the last 2 years. I still see this right now, even though they'll be improved, being a 5-6 win team.
Yeah, absolutely. That schedule's gonna be tough. Yeah, there's still a lot of holes that you guys need to fill. Maybe you guys hit on a couple of them in the draft. And hey, even if you go. Well, actually, I'm thinking even if they go 4 or 5, they're probably not even gonna want to throw the third string. If you draft somebody in the second round, maybe they do throw them week 17, week 18, but Dable and Shane are probably going to be wanting to go try to win games, not try to So maybe they do stick around with Wilson or Winston all year instead of maybe giving the rookie a chance week 17 or week 18 because they do desperately need to win games. So maybe that could happen, but yeah, it's still not a great overall roster, and there's still a lot of work to do. But yeah, Wilson and Winston definitely helped make the offense just a little bit better.
Yeah, overall, the Giants are in a bad spot. They're in a bad spot. If they lost that game to Indy, if they fired the people they should have fired, they'd be in a much better spot because you have a new coach, new GM, new quarterback, and you're going through a rebuild. Now you've got a GM and a head coach that are pretty much on the hot seat more than any head coach and GM are in the league, and you're not going to get the best quarterback prospect. You're going to probably wind up getting, a Jackson Dart or the kid from Louisville instead of getting Cam Ward. But with this class, this is the best they can do at this point. The only saving grace is they're going to get a player, a defensive player, probably Carter or Hunter, who will be a franchise guy for years to come. But the Giants, even though the Giants right now are, let's be honest, they're just not in a good spot.
No, they're not. And it's got to be frustrating, and it's been a lot of steps backwards since the playoff run a couple years, the playoff run a couple years ago. So, everything's gone wrong since then, and that's I'm going through that right now with my NBA team. Yeah, just made a playoff, and then everything's gone.
Oh man, that's bad. That's bad right there. They got crushed last night, Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that last night was probably the last game I watched all year. So I kind of in that same boat right now with them. So I get it. It's you finally felt like the future's bright, and now again you got to kind of start over from scratch. So yeah, you would like to do it or this off season, start from scratch, and you know maybe draft Cam Ward, even though I don't think that's I I'm very up in the air if that guy's a franchise guy. But yeah, it's frustrating, and bottoming him out this year is probably more than likely going to happen.
Yeah, it looks like they'll be better, but I can't see them winning five or six more games. But you mentioned your basketball team. We're going to talk about your football team. And yesterday they signed Stephon Diggs, 3 years, 69 million, 23 million a year, coming off an ACL. He's coming off the ACL, so but it's a low risk move for me. But I think it's a low risk move because you can get out of that contract in 1 year. And we know they lost out on Chris Godwin. They really didn't. What surprised me was they didn't try to trade for DK or even sign Cooper Kupp. So this is definitely a plan B or C for them. But this is a low risk, high reward move. If he's the guy who was in Buffalo, this team very easily can make the playoffs because he would clearly, if he's the guy who was in Buffalo or even close to it, he'd clearly be the best receiver on that team. And then you look at the moves they've made on defense in the offseason. They've improved the offensive line a little bit, getting Morgan Moses than trading for Brad and signing Bradbury. So I like this move because it's low risk, high reward. It's low risk, high reward. And let me tell you, if he has a big year and Drake May has a big year, this team could be a surprise play. As you said when we talked about the Patriots a couple weeks ago, you said you think they're a playoff team. I think if he has the year that if he is the guy who comes back to being the guy who was in Buffalo, there's a good chance they could sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, there is. Diggs can come back looking like the wide receiver he once did in Buffalo. It sounded like they did go and try to get Metcalf, but he didn't want to play in New England. Um,
Yeah.
so so that's kind of a little bit frustrating. But yeah, if Diggs can come back and be the guy he was, I don't. I guess as most wide receivers are divas, I don't really like that aspect about him. But I guess that's gonna come when you're getting most number one wide receivers. So I just worry a little bit of him. He's getting older and he's coming off a torn ACL. Like how um, you know, like can he look like the same guy still? But again, he's somebody that can catch the football. He can make some plays for us, and that's something we haven't had in wide receiver in a couple of years. So now it sounds like they love Hunter and like they're gonna take him fourth. So I would assume they put him at wide receiver because I don't think you're gonna have him play the slot corner, and I don't think they just signed Carlton Davis to play the slot. So I think Hunter's a better cornerback than wide receiver, but maybe that's the other guy they're going with at a wide receiver. So maybe that's possible as well. Um, but we'll see. But it's nice to get an actual big play wide receiver in this room because they haven't had that in a couple years.
They haven't had that in a long time. Now, the last really elite pass catcher they had was Gronkowski, and Edelman was really good too. I'll say that. But yeah, they haven't really had this kind of player in a long time. And give the regime credit for being aggressive all offseason, getting the guys, the Harold Landrys, the Milton Williams on defense, getting and Carlton Davis, getting those guys on defense, and then making this move. They've been aggressive. The Pats, they've utilized all the money they've had in free agency. It's going to be interesting. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And let me tell you, you're probably hoping both QBs get taken. You're really hoping both quarterbacks get taken before in the top three picks because Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter be waiting for. Now, I hear rumors you guys might not take Abdul Carter, which I think you should because he's clearly better than anybody else in the draft. But if Travis Hunter's there, I know you guys are taking him. He'd be great. He'd be great for you guys. Yeah, he could play the slot. He could be a slot receiver. He could play corner. So it would be a great pickup for you guys.
Yeah, he would. Maybe he does play a little bit of both sides because I guess they don't necessarily need him to play corner right away. Unless if like somebody goes down. But yeah, I'm with you. I'd rather have Abdul Carter and just get another pass rusher there. Because man, you saw what the Eagles were able to do when you have elite pass rushers that can get to the quarterback. So that's kind of where I'm at. Hunter would be a nice pick too. So yeah, I wouldn't mind either one of those two, but definitely I'm kind of leaning more Carter. But yeah, the regime's done a nice job this offseason. And I think it helps, bringing in Diggs here that he kind of sees that Drake May can be a proven quarterback in this league, and that definitely helps. And so yeah, I'm excited to kind of see the rest, especially the draft, and see who they go here. And yeah, hopefully get another wide receiver too. And if definitely definitely a lot of progress been made this offseason.
There has been. I think Vrabel's been a big reason why. I think Vrabel's been pushing Elliott Wolf to make moves. Like last year when he brought a bunch of guys back from a 4-13 team and they went 4-13. They're really 3-14 because the Bills game that game, but they were terrible again. Vrabel's pushing people. Vrabel's pushing people. That's why I think this is Vrabel's a great addition to this team because he's pushing Wolf to make moves in the offseason. I think he's gonna make a difference with this team. And let me tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of those surprise playoff teams. The way this offseason has gone.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I know I said it a couple weeks ago. I was anticipating they get a wide receiver, hopefully another one. I don't think just because they're playing a fourth place schedule, so it's not that daunting either. I know they play the AFC North, which is obviously going to be a tough division. I think it's the NFC South. I believe the other,
It's the South. It's the South. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's 3 games you should win in that division at least. So, yeah, so I could see the team sneaking in the playoffs. It's going to be the AFC is just so competitive. It's going to be a difficult path to get there. But they should have one of the easier schedules, you think, in the AFC. So that's definitely going to help them in their division too. The Jets aren't going to be great. I think Miami, they're right now probably close to the same level. Yeah, they're pretty close.
I think Miami's a little bit better because they're better at receiver and they have a more proven quarterback, but it's very close. And I wouldn't be surprised if New England ends up being better than them because they got the better coach, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know Miami has owned us the last couple of years, but I wouldn't be shocking to see it flip back to the other side here and be, hopefully maybe sweep them. So their schedule should be that difficult. So I could definitely see them getting like 9, 10 wins, and that should be enough to get them in the playoffs.
And you say Miami's on you. The trying to thinking you could win without Tom Brady, Gerard Mayo era is over. It's a new era. I think I'm not going to hold that against them. Miami is a new era with Mike Vrabel, so we'll see what happens. But another low risk, high reward move for the Patriots, and we'll see what happens there. But we got to move on to the NCAA tournament, and we'll start in the East region, and we'll start with Duke. We're at the Sweet 16. We'll start with Duke. East region. Those games are played at Newark. Should be a lot of Duke fans in the building. Tomorrow night. And they'll be the late game against Arizona, but we'll start with them. And the big question going into it is, should Duke be the heavy favorite to win this region? I'm not going to say heavy favorite because I like Alabama. I think Alabama is a team that got to the Final Four. They got one of the top 4 players in the country in Marcus Sears. Nate Oates I know the team doesn't play that. Nate Oates teams don't play a lot of defense, but they do play offense. They are good offensively. They beat St. Mary's by double digits in the round of 32. So I think Duke is the favorite, but I wouldn't say the heavy favorite because I think there's a really good chance that Alabama could get back to the Final Four.
Yeah, they could. I'm kind of leaning that it's Duke is a heavy favorite, especially if Tyrese Proctor is going to shoot, I think, 15 for 18 from 3, like he has his first 2 NCAA tournament games. If he's shooting that well, Duke's going to be an unstoppable force. Just with all the length that they have, the talent that they have with Flag, Proctor, Knipple, who kind of drove out of the gates in the first half on Sunday and really stepped up there in the second half. So because the thing with Bama is I did not like the way they played the first 2 games. Like St. Mary's looked dreadful. They couldn't hit a bunny.
So you didn't like Bama's performance against St. Mary's?
No, I didn't think they played that well at all.
Wow.
St. Mary's missed a ton of bunnies, and I think they should have. St. Mary's, if they hit some shots, should have beat them. And Robert Morris gave them a run for the money for the first about 35 minutes. Robert Morris leading that game had a chance to take the lead. So I really haven't been that impressed with Bama so far. So I kind of think Duke right now is a heavy favorite to win this region.
I think they're the favorite, not the heavy favorite. But we'll talk about their game with Arizona. They'll face Arizona. Rematch of a game years ago. Like it was back when they were out west. Arizona played in 2011. Yeah, Duke would have played UConn, but Arizona upset them with Derek Williams. But I don't think the same is going to happen here. I mean, I think Duke is just playing so well. You said Proctor hitting threes. You got Knupel hitting threes. Flag to me is the best player in the country. Malawatch is a great rim protector. So I think Duke wins this by double digits. And Justin, I know you got Duke. Well, how can Arizona pull this upset? How can Caleb Love and Arizona pull this upset?
Well, yeah, you mentioned the name Caleb Love. He's feast or famine. And the first meeting when they played November, he was 1 for 9, and Arizona could only score 55 points back in November in Tucson. If Caleb Love can put on a performance like he did the night to Oregon, they have a chance. But as we know, from seeing Caleb Love for the last 5 years, you never know what type of game you're gonna get out of Caleb Love. And, you know, North Carolina transfer, the last time he gets to go up against Duke, maybe he's saving maybe he's got one more great performance in him. But I think Caleb Love's kind of the big X factor for Arizona to win this basketball game on tomorrow night. And because I think the other way to beat Duke is like bully ball. And I don't think that Arizona's like
No,
built to play
they
that
don't
way.
have size.
So
They do not have size. Arizona's it's about their two guards, Bradley and Love. They don't have size.
yeah. Yeah, so they're not gonna be Duke that way. So you're gonna need to rely on Caleb Love, and that's a risky investment. So I think Duke probably wins this thing probably close to double digits, I think. I'm not expecting a great Caleb Love game. I just think I think Duke's just got too much size and too much athleticism that they could throw a couple of bodies on him defensively and kind of keep him away from attacking the basket or having to shoot over top of him. So I like Duke in this one.
Yeah, I think Duke wins. If they could beat Arizona by double digits at Arizona, they should be able to beat them pretty much in a home game because there's a lot of Duke alums in the New York, New Jersey area. They should be able to beat them in the NCAA tournament by double digits. That's why I got Duke winning this one by double digits. Now we'll move on to which is the first game tomorrow night between BYU and Alabama. And it's a very interesting game. You got Alabama, I think one of the best players in the country, and Marcus Sears. And you got some pretty good players too. You got Grant Nelson and Chris Youngblood, and then you got BYU. Saunders is a really good player. Denham has been playing well going in. He's a top 10 pick. Their point guard's a top 10 pick, 6'9" point guard. So I mean, he does not a great. He's shooting like under 30% from three, but he can distribute the ball. So and BYU's deep too, but I think this is a close game. I think it's within single digits, but I think the difference is going to be BYU does not have a player as good as Marcus Sears, and Marcus Sears is going to be the difference in this game. And that's why I got Alabama heading to the Elite Eight for the second year in a row to play Duke. So I got Alabama heading to the Elite Eight for the second year in a row. But Justin, can BYU make their first Elite Eight since 1950?
Crazy that it's been that long because they've had some good teams over the years. So
they had Jimmer Fredette, Jimmer. They had Jimmer.
Yeah, that Jimmer.
They
Yeah,
were in the Sweet 16 with
yeah.
Jimmer. Jimmer lost in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, well, what's the kid's name that got kicked out of school for something he can't do at BYU? That I think that cost him. I forget his name, but yeah, that hurt them that year. But yeah, I think BYU here has a chance. Now they shot the ball really well in Denver, but that's an altitude. Now you're going to be playing in Newark here, which is going to be a different. You mentioned Ego Demon. He's not he actually shot the ball well in round one. Now, can you expect that against Alabama? Probably not, because Alabama, yes, their defense is not great, but they are second in the country in catch and shoot defense, and that's what BYU wants to do. So, because Bama doesn't want you, they're very analytically driven. They'd rather have you take a bunch of mid-range jumpers. They so and that's BYU's a big catch and shoot team. So if BYU's not getting some open looks there, maybe they missed some early on. But BYU can, I assume BYU's not going to mind playing an Alabama tempo game. So they over under is like 175, which is quite a lot for a college game. And I would not dare take it under with Bama either. With the way they get up and down to shoot the basketball, but yeah, BYU's got to knock down some shots. Richie Saunders got to play well in this one, and Alabama definitely needs Marcus Sears to play better. I know, like round one, he did a lot of the damage from the free throw line. He didn't shoot well either in round two. So, BYU too. If they can get Marcus Sears to have another off night, they definitely have a shot to knock off Bama.
Oh, I think they have a shot, but I just think Sears is going to be the difference. I think he's going to be the difference, and that's why I think Bama faces Duke in the East Region Final on Saturday night. And it would be Bama trying to go back to the Final Four, and Duke trying to try to get back to the Final Four for the first time since Coach K's last year in 2022. And I think it's a really close game. I think it's a game within single digits, but I got to go with Duke. They've been dominant all year. I got to go with Duke to win this region. I picked them to win this region. I picked them to get to the final. I got Duke winning the East region. But Justin, can Bama get back to the Final Four?
I'll be rooting for them, of course, but I think Duke's got too much talent in this one. I think Bama could give Duke problems if they can get. I know Duke's been playing a little bit more tempo the last couple weeks, or last couple games, I should say. But Bama, if they can get out transition, hit some open jumpers where Duke can't set their defense, then I think Bama has a chance in that game. But I just think Duke's got just too much length. And again, I just haven't liked the way Bama's looked the first 2 rounds. I know Grant Nelson's been banged up, and they had to bring him in the second half of the Ryan Morris game. But I just Bama, I think, just a little bit too volatile for me, and I'm gonna take Duke to just find a way to win this basketball game. You mentioned it too; they're gonna have the home court edge, so I'm gonna take Duke in a close one to get by Bama.
Yeah, I got Duke winning this region, and you have Duke winning it as well. So now we move to the West region, and we will start with the team that eliminated the Huskies on Sunday, and that's Florida, and they are facing the Crab Five in Maryland. And with Maryland, they have could have one of the best starting five, probably have one of the best starting fives in all of college basketball, but their bench is absolutely terrible. And Florida, is one of the top players in Walter Clayton. He proved on Sunday against UConn why he's, again, a top 4 or 5 player in college basketball. And for this game, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to be within single digits. But I think the difference in this game is going to be Maryland. I know Derek Queen is really good, but right now and he'll probably be a better NBA player. But right now, he's not as good as Walter Clayton. That's number one. And number two, no one in that Crab Five really stood outside of Queen at the buzzer against Colorado State. No one really stood out in that game. That's number two. And also, I think Kevin Willard is a little bit distracted with the Villanova thing. Let's be honest. Kevin Willard's a little bit
distracted.
There's a
lot going on there.
It could be a little bit distracted. You probably saw that on Sunday. But here's the biggest reason. They don't have a Walter Clayton who can make. They don't have a player as good as Walter Clayton, and Florida's a better bench with Aberdeen and Haw. They have a better bench, and they were my pick to win it all. They got to be better inside. They were outfit. UConn was the more physical team on Sunday. They were the more physical team. Their interior game needs to be better. If they want to win this championship, Condon has to be better, and their other guy, I don't remember his name, the other guy, he's got to be better. Their inside game has got to be better if they're going to win this championship. But in this one, I think, again, Walter Clayton's the best player on the floor here, and I think Florida having the best player in their depth gets them to the Elite Eight. I got Florida winning this one by single digits. But Justin, can the Terrapins get to the Elite Eight for the first time since Gary Williams won the national title in 2002?
Yeah, Maryland's got a chance now. UConn showed you the blueprint. Is you got to take Florida out of transition because they really were not able to run most of that game on Sunday. Credit to the UConn staff there. They couple more of those open threes go down, they win the basketball game. Yep. Yeah, Kevin Willard's probably distracted. The AD left too to SMU, and I don't think he got along with the AD. Now he doesn't get along with Pratt. There's a lot going on there, Maryland, that also worries me right now. But yeah, the shot making of Walton Clayton Jr. is going to be the difference here. It's the first time in a while UConn didn't have the best guard on the floor in a late in the game there.
And it showed with the big shots that Clayton made.
Yeah, he made some, he made some tough jumpers that he wasn't even really set. He was moving sideways and he's still knocking down. I think Florida, you mentioned the bigs. If Florida bigs, they are better, which I think they will in this game. Derek Queen and Julian Reese, they haven't really seen like Florida bigs where they can kind of rotate a couple guys on them. Defensively, keep them fresh. And I think that could be a difference in this one. Shelton Miguel from Maryland, he's been like a 43% three-point shooter. If he can knock down his shots in this one, I think Maryland's got a chance, but I think you got to keep it a half-court game for Maryland, which, I think they can do, but I think Florida's just got too much firepower. And I think Florida got their scare too on Sunday. I think that was a wake-up call, and I think, they're not going to let something like that happen again like it did Sunday.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. We'll move on to the other game. You got John Calipari, who's, let's be honest, he's done a really good job. I think a great job in his first year at Arkansas, getting them to the. And listen, it takes a lot for me to praise John Calipari. Don't get me wrong; I think he's a very, very good coach and be a great, phenomenal recruiter. But he upsets Rick Pitino in the second round, and then you got Texas Tech, who's been a really good team all year long. And I think this game is going to be really close. I think this game is going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire. But I think the difference in this game is I think Texas Tech's got a little more talent with Williams and with JT Toppin. I think they got a little bit more talent, and I think they squeeze out a close one. Now, Arkansas definitely has the coaching edge with John Calipari, but I think that Texas Tech squeezes one out here. I think they squeeze one out, and they beat Arkansas, and they get to their first Elite Eight since 2019 with Chris Beard when they got to the national title game. But, Justin, can John Calipari get to his first Elite Eight since 2019?
No, I got Texas Tech too here. I think Texas Tech's at the coach. Graham McCaslam was very, very good. I watch him at North Texas, his teams, the way they played there. I think McCaslam's. I'm kind of surprised at Texas, but they're still playing. I think he does a really. I think they scheme up some really good things. Um, and so now part of that, I am very low on Cal. I do have to give them credit. They look better after Boogie got hurt. I know he came back and he's looked okay. But they figured some things out after Boogie Flan got hurt. But I think in this one, the difference is Arkansas's pick and roll defense is not very good because their bigs just aren't very. They can't switch their bigs. Like Youssef, they just can't. And Texas Tech with JT Toppin being the JT Toppin, I think could really feast on him for that. And Texas Tech plays that no middle defense either, which is going to force Arkansas to hit jump shots, which you saw on Saturday. That's not their forte. So if Arkansas can't get to the line, I think Arkansas is really going to struggle to manufacture points in this one. I really like this Texas Tech team with JT Toppin. Um, I'm hoping McMillan's back. I haven't really seen anything on him this week, or yet on his status. But if he's back too, I think that helps Texas even more. So I think this should be a good one. Two teams that are really good defensively. But I just think Texas Tech's got too much firepower here for Arkansas.
Yeah, interesting part of this game is you got two really good players that could play or could not play. You got Thero from Arkansas, and you got McMillan from Texas Tech.
I forgot to mention, Cal said he's going to play at least
12
15
to 15 minutes, but not a ton.
Yeah.
Not a ton. Yeah, he said that on the McAfee show. Yeah, not a ton, but yeah, okay. Thero is going to play. So yeah, this is probably the first time Arkansas has been healthy all year. So I could see them upsetting them, but I just think Tech wins a close one there. So now we got Texas Tech, and we both got Texas Tech and Florida in the Elite Eight for the West region. And the thing for me is I think Texas Tech gives them a game, but I picked Florida to win the national title, so I'm going with them over Texas Tech. I got Florida winning this region. I got Florida just like I had them win a national title. Sunday did not change my mind. I know they got to get better on the interior. They got to be better on the interior. They weren't good on the interior on Sunday against UConn, but I got Texas Tech win. I got Texas Tech, and I got Florida beating Texas Tech in the final of the West region.
Yeah, I'm gonna still have Florida winning too. I really like this Texas Tech team, but I just think Florida could throw a couple different bodies at JD Toppin, which could affect them a little bit there. And I think Florida, that no middle defense Tech plays, I think Florida's able to make jump shots there, and they've kind of. I think Florida played pretty well against Ole Miss because Ole Miss runs that same no middle defense as well. So they've already kind of seen that as well. So I just think Florida's got too much firepower here. They just got too many weapons, and I do think they outlast Texas Tech, but I think it should be a close one.
Yeah, it should be. It should be. So we'll move to the South region, and the first game in the South region is between Ole Miss and Michigan State. And Tom Izzo, we'll get to the NIL stuff a little bit later, but Tom Izzo gave a passionate speech on yesterday about NIL. But going into this game with Ole Miss, I'm going to go Ole Miss. This is the one upset of the Sweet 16 I got. I'm going Ole Miss here. I think they're better on the interior. And again, even though it's not as good of a starting five as Maryland, again, all five guys in their starting five average double figures. And then for Michigan State too, I think they lack that inside game. I like Atkins. I like Jace Richardson, but I think Ole Miss has more scoring, and that's why I think Ole Miss wins it. I think it's a close game. I think it's by one possession, but I think Ole Miss this. I know it's tough to go against Tom Izzo in March, but I think that Ole Miss is the more talented team, even though Tom Izzo is a phenomenal coach in March, and he made his point known about the transfer portal. But Justin, I'll give you two questions here. Can Izzo get closer to his ninth Final Four? And did you agree with the stuff Izzo said yesterday?
So the first question, I think Izzo and the Sparties get this win. I know Sunday didn't look great. Couple calls late when he gets to Mexico there may or may have not robbed them. Like UC San Diego on Thursday night too. Still,
you're not happy about UC. You're not happy about UC San Diego. No. And we won't talk about the team they played in that first round.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. On Thursday night, another one. New Mexico could have had that one. I do agree with Izzo's comments now with the portal stuff. Now, just because we're UConn fans, they've won it the last 2 years. Tom Moore has been in charge of like handling the portal stuff until their season's over. So like you could still do it that way. You could, because I guess Tom Moore is pretty much like their GM too / assistant coach. So I don't know if Michigan State has. I don't think they do have a GM. Like you could probably have one guy on your staff just kind of keep an eye on it, and if you are interested in somebody, kind of keep tabs on him and communicate with him. But I get what he's saying about the loyalty and all that. He wants to be loyal to the guys. You can still do that while looking at the portal. Now I know Izzo's at his age is probably not wired like Dan Hurley anymore, where Dan is so that guy I don't think sleeps. I don't think he slept probably since Sunday. So, but I get it, and I do like what Izzo's saying. It definitely needs a fix. So, and I know we're going to get to it later on here. But it is an issue with the portal. I don't know why they can't do it like before the Final Four, like the Monday, or just wait another week until Tuesday after the national championship game. I don't know why they can't. Because I get why football does it, because like they usually start in January, spring semesters start mid-January. I get why football does it before, during the playoffs. I still don't like it, but for basketball, it's like classes don't start again until you have to like June, I think, till more summer session starts. So I don't get it. I don't like the timing of it. So I do agree with Izzo that stuff should be changed.
Yeah, it actually. We'll get to it. I think it's helped college basketball a little bit, the transfer portal, because it's the teams are better and the bigger teams are better. But yeah, I get what his point. I get what his frustration. I get his frustration that it shouldn't be right now when teams are getting ready for the Sweet 16. As you said, it should be when the Final Four is. But we'll get to more of that later in the show. But we got to move on to the second game in the South region between Michigan and Auburn. And I think this game, it's going to be competitive, I think, for most of the game, but I think Auburn's going to pull away. You got Janiah Broome, Denver Jones, you got Miles Kelly. I think that Chaz Baker-Mazara. I think Auburn is one of the top teams in the country, and they're going to prove that. And Michigan is good, but I think their guard play is questionable. Even though Trey Donaldson is really good late in the game, he's facing his former team. I think they're going to be able to contain either Golden or Wolf inside. And I'm going to go Auburn here. I'm going to go Auburn by double digits. But Justin, can Michigan get to the Elite Eight for the first time since Hunter Dickinson's freshman year of 2021?
No, I think Auburn gets them too here. Auburn's guards really showed up on Saturday against Creighton, especially late in that game. And maybe too, Auburn found their mojo back. Maybe that's kind of returned there. You did mention that it's a Trey Donaldson revenge game, so maybe he does have an awesome game. But I think in this one too, like maybe besides like Reese and Queen at Maryland, Michigan really hasn't seen two bigs that can kind of guard the Wolf and Gold and kind of the pick and roll game that Cardwell and Broome could throw at them. And I think that's kind of be where the difference is, because Auburn's guard can be very chaotic. But I do think they score enough in this one. And I just I think for Michigan too, if they can attack the offensive glass, because in all five of Auburn's losses, they've given up 10 or more offensive rebounds. So that's where Michigan, I think, has got to win this game. They've won a ton of close basketball games this year, but I do think Auburn pulls this one out. I do think it stays close in this one, but Auburn finds a way to get the win.
So I got an all SEC Elite Eight in Atlanta, which makes sense. You got an all SEC Elite Eight in Atlanta between Auburn and Ole Miss. You have Auburn and Michigan State, and I picked Auburn to go to the Final Four in this region. I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to pick Auburn to beat Ole Miss. But Justin, for you, can Izzo get to a final? Can Izzo pull the upset and get to another Final Four?
I'm going to say yes, he does.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Jace Richardson did not play well there on Sunday. I think he bounces back these two, and Jaden Atkins was the one that really stepped up and was key for him on Sunday night. He had 16 the other night, and I think this Michigan State team could handle. I think they're very of course the Michigan State Tom Izzo-led team is very physical inside. I think Booker and Zapula, the Longwood transfer, I think they could handle down low in the blocks with Broome and Cardwell. And I do think Michigan guards do make enough shots in this one, and I do think the Spartans get the win and move on to the Final Four.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. I got Auburn. You got Michigan State. We got two of the three Final Four teams the same, and then we differ in the South region. But we will wrap up in the Midwest region. And here's one thing I'll admit: this might be the region I might get wrong, because I forgot to look at the fact they were playing in Indianapolis and Kentucky and Purdue. It's going to be all. I think it's going to be all of their fans there. I feel it's going to be all of their fans there. But I picked a Houston, Tennessee Elite Eight. But we'll get to the first game between Kentucky and Tennessee. And Tennessee's pretty much playing a road game here. These Kentucky fans are going to travel to Lucas Oil. It's going to be a bunch of Kentucky fans there. So Tennessee's playing a road game, but here's the difference to me between Kentucky and Tennessee. Kentucky doesn't have a Chaz Lanier, and I think Ziegler's the second best player on the floor. Even though Kentucky's got a good team with Owe, with Brea, with Butler, with Williams and Card, they're going to get starting five averages double figures. But I think Tennessee has more of the top end talent. I think it's close, it's competitive, it's within single digits. It's an SEC matchup in the Sweet 16. But I'm going to go with Tennessee here. I got Tennessee heading to the Elite. I got Tennessee heading to the Elite Eight. But Justin, can Kentucky get back to their first Elite Eight since 2019?
I'm gonna go back and forth on this one. Kentucky did sweep them 2 regular season meetings here. I'm gonna take Kentucky to win their third. Now, in the 2 games they played this year, Kentucky was 24 for 48 from 3, 50%. Tennessee in the 2 games were 14 for 63. That equals out to 22%. So, that's obviously the huge key. And I think Tennessee can't get 3-point happy in this one. They got to go to the basket, attack Kentucky's defense. And if Chaz Lanier could hit a couple big shots in this one's going to be huge. I know Butler's played in the first 2 rounds. I don't think he's totally 100% though. So, that could be a fact because he's their best on-ball defender. He's kind of their point guard too. But the way to kind of and Tennessee can do this very well is you can bully them, Tennessee can bully teams, and I think that's what they're gonna have to do. Kentucky here, but I just think Tennessee, if they fall in love with the threes, I think they're in trouble. If they go to the rim, go inside, try to draw some fouls, go to the free throw line. I think they can win this basketball game. But I just see it every year with Tennessee. They just don't, with Rick Barnes' team, they just don't make their shots, in these games, it seems like. And they are playing at Lucas Oil too, but it's like it's going to be cut in half too. So like it's going to be one of those like weird kind of backgrounds for shooters. So that could, definitely have an effect on both these teams. So I will take Kentucky, but again, I don't feel great. I think this is a toss up.
Yeah, and you made a good point though about shooting, and Tennessee's a good shooting team, and they don't have a great inside game. And you look at Kentucky, they have a better inside game than Tennessee. So yeah, I would not be surprised if Kentucky wins. And then you got to put the home crowd. You got to factor the home crowd into it too. So this might be a mistake in my bracket taking Tennessee here, but I took Tennessee. I got to stick with Tennessee, but you got Kentucky, so we'll see what happens. But the second game is between Purdue and Houston, and that's going to probably be a home game for Purdue because Purdue is right there, right next to Indianapolis. But I did pick Purdue. I didn't even pick Purdue to make the elite, the Sweet 16. I picked the distracted. My mistake, probably. I predicted the distracted Will Wade to make the Sweet 16 in McNeese. So. But I think in this game, because I took Houston, I got to take Houston. But again, there's a really good chance that Purdue could win this one too because they're pretty much at home. But as you brought up at the Tennessee-Kentucky game, I think the difference in this game could be the fact that Purdue's going to have to live and die by the way they shoot. Braden Smith, one of the best players in the country, but here's what Purdue's been missing all year. They missed that. They really haven't replaced Zach Edey. They don't have that inside game. Even though Kaufman, Wren, and Braden Smith have had really good years, they missed Zach Edey, and I think that's gonna hurt them in this game. Because I think the inside game of Roberts, I think with Cryer and Uzan are gonna be able to shoot the ball. They're gonna be able to have pretty good games. I think it's gonna be Houston. I think Houston advances to the Elite Eight. But Justin, can Purdue get to the Elite Eight for the second year in a row?
No, I hate that I'm going all chalk here, but that's kind of what this tournament is, and I think that's going to continue throughout here the remainder of the tournament. I just think Houston, their defense. I guess it's gonna be a home game for Purdue, but I just think they're gonna put Braden Smith into a nightmare. He's been a little sloppy lately with the basketball too. I just don't think he's gonna do well with the pressure that Houston's gonna put on him. I think they're gonna struggle to shoot the basketball in this one. And yeah, you mentioned it. Purdue's like bottom 5 and 2-point field goal defense, and they're like bottom 15% in block shots. So yeah, Zach Edey's been a huge loss for him, and I do think Houston's gonna be able to just feast inside. Because I know Houston's one of the better. Actually, actually surprised. They're 272 and 2-point field percentage. I figured it would be higher. They're number 1 in the country in 3-point percentage offensively. So yeah, it's really gonna help out. Houston. So yeah, I think Houston will be able to make some shots on the outside too. This is Calvin Sampson's best offensive team. I feel like if he's gonna win it one of these years, possibly this year with this team. So I like Houston, even though it might be a road game for them, that they get this thing done.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens between Houston and Purdue. Now the final of the Midwest region, you got Houston and Kentucky. I got Houston, Tennessee. I went Tennessee in my bracket because I didn't want to pick all 4-1 seeds, and I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to stick with them. I think that the point guard play is Ziegler. I think the shooting of Lanier. This could be my biggest mistake, taking Tennessee to go to the Final Four and a Rick Barnes team to go to the Final Four, but I did it because I didn't want to pick all 1 seeds, and I think they pull it out. I think Houston struggles in big games. I think they'll struggle here. I think Tennessee goes to the Final Four, which would put 3 SEC teams for me in the Final Four: Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn. The only one would be Duke. Justin, can Calvin Sampson get back to the Final Four for the first time since 2021?
I think he does. I think this is a year. I think Kentucky, they'll put a lot of ball pressure on him. And Kentucky just defensively, too, is not great guarding the basketball. And I think Houston's going to be able to hit the basket. I think they're going to get a lot of open looks in this one. And yeah, it might be a road game. I think Houston fans do travel pretty well. I think they had a good contingent at the Big 12 tournament. So I do think there's going to be Houston fans there. I just kind of think that this is very easily could be Calvin Sampson's year to win it. And I think especially too the way Indiana's been so dysfunctional over the years. Obviously, got fired there for obviously what he was doing there. Got caught there with the text messages, but I just think this Calvin's year, and I think they get there. I think that defense does cause enough problems for Kentucky. I don't think Kentucky can win this game with their defense. So I think Houston gets the Final Four.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I got Tennessee. You got Houston in this region, but we'll see what happens with the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. But before we wrap up talking about the tournament, the big story of this tournament, the rumors of the first weekend, was the mid majors having no success and why they didn't have success. And I think I'll let you answer the question first. I think it's a pretty obvious answer why they had no success, but I'll let you answer the question. Why did the mid majors have no success in this tournament?
Yeah. So there's a ton of variants too. And like we were a second away from Colorado State being there. So I think, yeah, maybe it's possible that mid majors, that this could continue to happen here. But yeah, it's the NIL thing. It's the transfer portals. It's again, I think of it, you think of all the 4 major, pro sports. If you have your career year, if you're only on a 1-year contract, if everybody was on a 1-year contract in the pros, you're gonna jump into free agency. So like, I don't blame the players for doing it if you're at a lower school, because all these guys are 60 NBA draft picks. They're all not going to be in the NBA. So make your money now if you can. So I don't blame the players, but it's tough at these NIL. I don't know if you saw St. Francis, PA, the team that just won the Northeast. They're dropping to Division 3. They didn't have an AINL. I think with this new house settlement things and the next couple of months, I think there might be. This is my guess. I think you might see maybe close to 100 teams drop down from Division 1. Like I think it's possible because I don't think all these schools are going to want to do the NIL thing. I don't think they're going to have, because you got to spread it all out between all of your sports. So Division 1's kind of got oversaturated. There's 364 teams. So I do think the portal, the NIL does have a little bit to do with it. You do need guardrails. Like I think like a coach has a buyout. I think if you're one of the power conference schools and you take somebody from like the Northeast Conference, you should have to give a couple thousand or 10,000 to go, from poaching somebody from like a lower level. Like I maybe it helps it a little bit out, but like, and I think maybe you get 1 free transfer, and then after that, unless if it's like a coach leaving, maybe a family obligation or something like that, you can get, you can kind of get a waiver, but like there's a guy, I forget where, I think he just played at GW. I think he went to 4 different high schools and now he's transferring his 4th different college. Like that's just not, you can't do that,
Yeah.
So it's the NIL, it's the transport, it's a combination of both. So the NCAA didn't need guardrails, but again, when they announced the NIL was legal, it was just a 1-page sheet. The NCAA was just more like, we don't care. We're just gonna, you guys figure it out, because they didn't want to deal with this. And you're seeing it. It's a wild, wild west out there. And the NCAA, every time they get sued now, they're getting killed in the courts too.
Yep, yep. And I think, and I agree with you. The obvious reason is because of NIL and the transfer portal, and I think a lot of it's because the mid major schools aren't as good because they lose these players. They lose their best players. Look at Florida, the team that just beat UConn. Their two best players one came from Iona with Walter Clay, and the other one came from FIU. They're losing. They're losing their best players. You look at Alabama, Grant Nelson and Youngblood. They came from mid majors. Gillespie from Maryland, he came from a mid major. Toppin, he came from the Mountain West. Vlad Golden and Wolf. Wolf came from Yale. Vlad Golden came from FIU. The Power Five schools are getting better because of this, and the mid majors are getting worse because the mid majors are not able to pay or keep their best players, and the Power Five schools are able to poach those players from those teams because they could pay them. That's why we had the March Madness we had this year. Now, personally, I'm really for just having like one big upset and that's it. And because say you have a big upset, it's great to see, but you have to watch that team play the next game. And sometimes that team gets destroyed. It isn't as good in the next game and gets destroyed, and it kind of ruins the field. So, and the ratings are up for this tournament probably because it is more chalk. It is more chalk. The ratings are actually up because it's more chalk. So people talk about the upsets and the madness is ruined. Actually, it's actually more popular because the Power Five teams are better, and you're seeing better matchups later in the tournament, and people's brackets are still alive later in the tournament. That's why I think the rating is actually. I think the NIL and the transfer portal, as crazy as it seems, is actually helping college basketball because it's making the Power Five teams better, and it's keeping people more interested in the NCAA tournament. And it's keeping more people interested in the NCAA tournament as the tournament goes on instead of just having them interested the first weekend.
Yeah, I think to a point that helps, but I think at some point, like, we still talk about that Dunk City Florida Gulf Coast team. Like, that was an unbelievable basketball team. Like, you do lose that. Like the St. Peter's ones a couple years ago when they get to the Elite Eight. Like, that's awesome. That's what makes the tournament special.
All right, were you locked in watching that Florida Gulf Coast Sweet 16 game? Were you locked in? Oh, let me ask you a question. Would have more people watched North Carolina and Kentucky or St. Peter's in North Carolina 3 years ago? There's definitely more people watching. There's more people watching North Carolina, and Kentucky. So my point is, these underdogs they're great stories, but people aren't watching the next game. More people are watching when the higher seeded team wins. So I think this NIL and transfer portal is actually helping college basketball, and college basketball needed help because 4 or 5 years ago, college basketball was in a bad place. The talent level wasn't that good. You had a gazillion upsets in the NCAA tournament. People were not watching late into the tournament. I think this NIL and transfer portal is going to get people watching later into the tournament. And that's what you want for the NCAA tournament. You don't want people just watching for 4 days. You want people to watch for a month. And I think that's why I think it's actually helping college basketball because it makes the Power Five teams better. And you're not stuck watching. For example, FAU plays San Diego State in the Final Four game.
But I think that's awesome. It's rare. But like I'm different. Like I'm a college basketball fan, but I'm more. Yeah. I despise all the blue bullets besides UConn. I can't stand the rest of them.
Yeah.
But like it was like came out today with like Greg Sankey's whining that the Big East because they don't football is going to spend more, that they're going to have more money to use than the SEC is. When it comes to NIL coming up, like he and the Ron Sillinger called the Big East a mid-major league, and now he's getting absolutely destroyed by it for that mistake. But like Greg Sankey, he's just going to like the 14 SEC teams a joke. Like that Drake team that was pretty close, that played, good half against Texas Tech. That team was going to miss a tournament with 30 wins. UC Irvine had 18 road wins this year. I think it was the most all time. They're one team in the NIT. They're playing the semifinals tonight. Like that team didn't even sniffing at large. Like the NCAA tournament's made from these mid-majors stories. This is where I get the later on stuff, but like if the SEC and Big Ten ever break away, I won't watch 1 second of that tournament. I'll go watch what the rest of the country's playing because I try to watch at least like every team play once. I try. It's pretty tough to do.
All 300 NCAA teams play once.
Yeah, I try. It's very tough to do. But like that's how much I love college basketball. So like I'm rather going to go watch the Florida Gulf Coast of the world than watch Texas versus Ohio State. Like, I don't care about those two. I care about the mid-majors. I care about the upsets. I'm still gonna watch this weekend, but, like, I wish we had a St. Peter's at least. I get it. Yeah, maybe they got blown out, but it's a great story. It's a run that you don't forget. I still love that. I'm a Florida Gulf Coast fan now. I love paying attention to them, because well, one, the Atlantic Sun's fun, but two, because it's like I love that 2000 that run that they made. When they beat Georgetown. That's the last kind of thing you think about Georgetown is like that Florida. They really have been the same since Florida Gulf Coast beat them. So to me, that's what makes the tournament special is the Cinderella stories. I get it. Maybe every couple of years, if it's like this, fine. But like at Florida Atlantic team too, I've been wanting to go down there go watch a game one of these years because like I love watching that team. Like I love that team made a run. I was hoping they would play UConn national championship game. I love the runs that those teams make, and like later on, even if those teams are gone or like the players are gone, I'll still watch those guys because like I remember those runs. I love it.
Yeah, I get your love for I get your love for college basketball. I get your love for the little guy, but that doesn't sell to the to America. It honestly doesn't. I think the
I get
bigger
it.
matchups sell to America. The blue bloods being good, the Dukes, the Kentuckys, the big teams being good sells to America, and that's why I think it's actually good for. I know it's terrible for the coaches in college basketball, but for the fans of the for the overall for the fans of even for the fans of college basketball, more casuals will be interested if the better teams are good. And that'll increase ratings for the sport. This has probably been one of the highest rated college basketball seasons in a very long time because you had St. John's good, you had Duke with Cooper Flag, but you've in this tournament you've had the better teams winning. So I think that's helped the rating. So yes, the biggest reason to close this, the biggest reason why is because of NIL. But I do think, in my opinion, it makes college basketball better. I just think the NIL and the transfer portal makes it better because you're not stuck watching Loyola or whatever that team from Chicago. That's the team with Sister Jean was a part of Loyola Chicago playing a Final Four. You're not stuck doing that. And the thing is, a lot of these upsets, you got to watch that team play the next game. And there's times where that team gets absolutely destroyed and that game's unwatchable and nobody watches it. So I think with the big teams win and then making those teams better teams and making there be a separation between the mid majors and the power five schools, I think it's going to make the sport more popular. I just think it's going to be better for the sport overall, and it's going to be better for the NCAA tournament overall. But we agree to disagree. You're a mid major guy. You want to see the small schools win. But but at the end of the day, college basketball would not get popular in the 80s and 90s on majors. It got built on the Big East. It got built on the ACC success. It got built on those teams. It did not get built on the mid majors.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, and I do agree with what you're saying, and yeah, I'm somebody that is always going to like that's the darling story. New Hampshire's like my second team. They could be the sixth. They'll probably never get there in my lifetime, but like I don't care if they lose by 40. Like I just want to see them make it once. So maybe part of it because I'm a fan of a mid major. Now the school. I wish the school cared more, but like I just like this is coach at Austin Peay. He wears army fatigues because Austin Peay's like right near Fort Campbell. Like I love watching him wear on the sidelines wearing the army fatigues. Like it's different. He makes his staff sometimes wear it. Like it's just like stuff. It's just little quirky stuff like that is what I love about the sport, and you kind of learn more about it when like that team makes the giant run. So I'm a huge fan of it. I get it that yeah, everyone's gonna come watch the Blue Bloods. I'm just different than a lot of people. And I get to like college basketball is like a 3-week sport. Like I totally get it. And it's probably always gonna be like that, especially if the NFL continues to play to like mid-February. Like the casuals aren't gonna watch till after that. So like I totally get it. But like yeah, for me, I'd much rather see at least one of the mid majors play at least once this weekend. So, I get it. It should make for more exciting basketball this week, but I'm never gonna like. Again, I'm always gonna follow what those guys do. I've told you before, my favorite kind of tournaments are the mid-major ones because they're the ones that they're just the one big leads, and most of those seniors are probably done after they lose. So, they're playing. It's do or die for them. So I just enjoy watching mid-major basketball.
Yeah, we agree to disagree there, and we'll see. We'll see if this trend continues. We'll see if this is a 1-year thing or this trend continues. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But before we get to Butler's return to Miami, we'll talk about some women's college basketball. And the big story was Juju Watkins being out for the year. Juju Watkins it out. And I think the big thing here is, it sucks for Juju Watkins to see that on Monday night. That sucked to see your tear ACL. The best one right there, her and Paige are the top 2 players in women's basketball. To see your tear ACL was terrible. And it sucks because you're not going to get that matchup we all wanted to see. We wanted to see Paige. We want to see Juju in the Elite Eight. You're not going to see that. But the thing for UConn is this is a very easy path for them to the Final Four, and I think an easy path I think they're going to get to the national title game and play South Carolina or Notre Dame. I think that's where this thing is ending for UConn.
Yeah, it's disappointing to see that injury on Monday night because I was looking forward to the rematch. USC came in the Hartford right before Christmas and got them. And I was UConn wasn't playing great back then. I don't think Easy Fudd was even healthy that night.
She didn't play that game, no.
Yeah, so I was excited to kind of watch that in the Elite Eight, and that would have been huge for ratings. So I think Juju, even though I'm a UConn fan, I think Juju's a little bit better overall than Pages, but it's not by much. And I was really excited to hopefully get that Elite Eight matchup. We'll definitely won't get it. And the bracket definitely now opened up for UConn, and I think be special Gino could get one with Page in them, but they I could see Kansas State actually because they look good playing Kentucky the other day. So I could easily see Kansas State knock off USC on Saturday night.
Regardless of who it is, if it's USC or Kansas State, that team's not going to be UConn in the Elite Eight. That's just not happening. It just sucks. It just sucks that Juju Watkins is out because I wanted to see the matchup again. Yeah. We had it last year. They knocked Juju Watkins out as a freshman. I would have liked to have seen it. So it just sucks that Juju Watkins is out for the rest of the tournament. But we'll wrap up the show talking about Jimmy Butler and his return to Miami last night. I give the Heat fans credit for the ones that cheered him. I give them credit because you know what? This is not on Jimmy Butler. This is so on Pat Riley for being stubborn, for not giving him a contract extension. I mean, come on. And look at what happened to the Heat. I know they won last night. They got that was their NBA Finals. I get it. Beating Jimmy Butler beating the Warriors without Steph Curry. That was their NBA Finals. But the Heat have struggled. The Warriors, it's been night and day how good the two teams have been. The Warriors have been really good since Butler returned. The Heat have been terrible. The big question is how bad did the Heat screw this up? And they completely screwed this up. All you had to do was get an extension, and you had and you just kept him around, and maybe you add another guy. Maybe you're competing for championships again. But now it looks like it's going to be a while. I know Tyler Hero is good. Bam's pretty good, but Tyler Hero at his peak is not as good as Jimmy Butler at his peak. Miami's not going to be playing for championships for a while, and the big reason why is they completely screwed this thing up with Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, but I don't mind Pat Riley sticking to his guns. I don't. We see all these owners just cave in, and these GM just cave in.
But you have to in the NBA. You have to in the NBA, or you're not going to win.
Yeah, I don't like it though. The owners. Well, I'm a fan of an owner that literally thinks he controls the world, but if he's because then if you suck up to Jimmy Butler, then you got to suck up to everybody else. It's I think it's one of the reasons why he wants to win a time with the Yankees because Steve Cohen just gave him whatever he wanted, and if how Steinbrenner gave him the suite, he couldn't give one to Aaron Judge. He had to probably say no to Aaron Judge then if Judge asked for one, and that causes issues. So I guess I don't totally blame Pat Riley. They're standing on business, and yeah, maybe it's gonna be a rough couple of years for the Heat, but they do draft so well, and they're gonna get a pretty solid pick. They'll probably be in the play-in, but they'll be probably in the teens drafting somebody. So I get it. I'm not totally against Pat Riley. I'm just not. I like that there's an owner that's not going to give in to his players every time.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the Heat, and we'll see what happens with the Warriors in the future. But that's going to wrap up this edition of Sports Talk with R&J. But we will be back in about 15 minutes because opening day is tomorrow. And we will be previewing opening days tomorrow, and we will be previewing the entire baseball season. So make sure you tune in for that.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group, and here at CMG we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men, and great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.